He was used to commanding boardrooms, not dance floors. Used to making deals, not promises. Ethan Royce, the billionaire who could buy anything, found himself staring at his sister's wedding invitation and realizing there was one thing he couldn't seem to arrange: a date. Not because he couldn't find someone beautiful. Beauty surrounded him, models, socialites, investors' daughters, but every smile felt rehearsed, every laugh calculated. His sister, Lily, had teased him on the phone just last week. "Ethan, please don't show up alone again. You'll ruin my wedding photos with that lonely billionaire look." He had laughed, pretending it didn't sting. But it did. Behind his confident grin, Ethan was tired of people loving his money more than his heart. So there he was, one breezy afternoon, sitting outside a little cafe he never noticed before, sipping coffee while scrolling through his messages for potential dates. That's when he heard it, a cheerful voice. "Excuse me, sir, you're sitting at my table." He looked up to see a woman, not glamorous, not dressed for attention, just radiant in her simplicity. A messy ponytail, an oversized sweater, and eyes that sparkled with amusement instead of admiration. "Oh," he said, glancing at the empty tables around. "I didn't realize this one was special." "It's not," she said with a shrug, "but the Wi-Fi works better here." That made him laugh. Not a polite laugh, a real one. Something about her voice cracked the armor he didn't know he still wore. "Join me," he said. "I'd rather not. I don't share Wi-Fi, or tables, with strangers." He grinned. "Then let's fix that part. I'm Ethan." "Good for you," she replied, settling in across from him anyway. Her name, he later learned, was Maya. She worked at a local bookstore, part-time barista, full-time dreamer. She talked about books the way others talked about vacations, her words painting pictures more vivid than any luxury Ethan could buy. They talked for an hour. Then two. And when she left, the billionaire who was never lost for words found himself speechless. That night, he kept thinking about her. The way she teased him without fear, how she didn't seem to care who he was. A week passed, and his sister's wedding was now only days away. He still didn't have a date. His assistant, Robert, reminded him, "Sir, the media will be there. It might be better optics if you don't attend alone." Ethan sighed. Optics. That was the world he lived in, appearances, not emotions. And then he thought of Maya. Maybe it was crazy. Maybe it was too sudden. But he found himself walking into the little bookstore the next morning. She was there, sitting behind the counter, lost in a book. "Still guarding your Wi-Fi," he teased. She looked up, smiled faintly. "Still invading tables," he chuckled. "Actually, I came to ask you something unusual." She raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" "Well, my sister's getting married this weekend. And She laughed before he could finish. "Wait, are you asking me to be your date?" He nodded. Her laughter grew. "You do realize I'm not one of your billionaire friends, right?" "That's exactly why I'm asking you," he said softly. There was silence for a moment. Then, with that mischievous smile of hers, she said, "Fine. But if I trip in heels, you're catching me." That was how it began. A billionaire and a bookstore girl heading to a wedding together. The day of the wedding was pure sunlight and laughter. The garden shimmered with flowers and fairy lights, music floated in the air, and everyone looked picture perfect. Everyone except Maya, who had accidentally gotten lipstick on her teeth and was giggling at her reflection. Ethan stood beside her, laughing too. "You look amazing," he said. "Honestly, you look nervous," she replied. "Relax, it's just a wedding, not a merger." His sister, Lily, spotted them and nearly dropped her bouquet. "Ethan Royce, with a date. And she's adorable." Maya blushed, whispering, "I should have worn heels." "No," Ethan said, eyes lingering on her, "you're perfect like this." As the evening went on, something changed. People who usually whispered about Ethan's wealth now whispered about the way he looked at Maya. The way his usual cool, detached demeanor melted into genuine joy when she laughed. At one point, during the slow dance, she stumbled and almost fell. He caught her instantly, his hand on her waist, his eyes locked on hers. "Told you," she whispered breathlessly, "you'd have to catch me." He smiled, his heart thudding. "Always." Later, they slipped outside, away from the music and noise, into the soft glow of string lights. The air smelled of roses and champagne. "You know," Maya said quietly, "this feels like a dream I'll wake up from tomorrow." He looked at her. "Then I'll just have to make sure it doesn't end." She laughed gently. "You're too smooth for a man who reads financial reports." "I'm improvising," he replied. "You make it easy." There was a long pause, the kind that says everything words can't. He took her hand, unsure if it was too soon, but she didn't pull away. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt like a man, not a headline. When the night ended, he drove her home in silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, the peaceful kind, filled with unspoken warmth. Outside her apartment, she turned to him and said, "Thank you for not being what I expected." He smiled. "What did you expect? A billionaire who talks about yachts," she said. "Instead, I got a man who listens." He wanted to kiss her then, but he didn't. "Not yet." Instead, he said softly, "Can I see you again?" She smiled. "Only if we start with coffee and equal Wi-Fi rights." The days that followed were different. Ethan found himself waking up excited, not for meetings, but for moments. He'd visit her bookstore, pretending to browse while she teased him mercilessly. "You don't even read romance novels," she said once. "Not until now," he replied. "I think I'm living one." Their connection deepened in small ways. Shared jokes, quiet coffees, walks through the park. Maya taught him to see joy in little things, to laugh at himself, to live without a plan sometimes. One rainy evening, she showed up at his penthouse, drenched and smiling. "Your security guard almost didn't let me in," she said. He blinked. "Why not?" He said, "I didn't look rich enough." He laughed, handing her a towel. "Then I should fire him for not recognizing the richest person I know." They ended up cooking together that night, or rather, burning pasta together and laughing until their stomachs hurt. Somewhere between laughter and silence, between the clinking of plates and the smell of rain, Ethan realized, he didn't just like her. He loved her, not because she was different, but because, with her, he was different. One evening, he invited her to the rooftop where city lights sparkled below. "You know," he said, "everyone told me finding a date for my sister's wedding would be hard." She laughed. "Guess they didn't know about bookstores." He took a breath. "I think I found more than a date." She turned, surprised. "Ethan, I'm not great with words, Maya. But when you walked into my life, it stopped feeling like a calendar of meetings and started feeling like a story." There was a long silence, filled with wind and heartbeats. Then she whispered, "So what happens next in the story?" He smiled, stepping closer. "Whatever you want." And under the fading gold of the evening sky, he finally kissed her, softly, like a promise. Months passed. Their love wasn't perfect. She hated his early meetings, he hated how she could spend hours in a book aisle, but they fit, beautifully and perfectly. At the next family gathering, Lily teased again. "Ethan, you're glowing. What happened to my serious brother?" He looked at Maya, who was laughing with his nieces, and said, he found his reason to smile. It wasn't a fairy tale in the traditional sense. No glass slippers, no grand castles, just coffee cups, mismatched socks, shared smiles, and love that didn't need to be expensive to be real. Because sometimes, life writes its best chapters when you stop trying to plan the ending. Ethan never expected to find love when he was looking for a date. But that's how love works. It finds you when you're not searching. And long after the wedding, long after the laughter and the teasing, one memory stayed with him. That first moment when she said, "You're sitting at my table." He still smiled at the thought. Because now, every table was theirs.